This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
There is one circuit in America which every driver wants to conquer, and every year at the end of the IMSA Sports Car Championship season they head to Road Atlanta, and so with it goes the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to RaceSpot TV Friday night prime time, live from Road Atlanta. Jack Stiles and Paul Smith are going to be bringing you all the action that is going to be befolding over the course of the next 30 minutes. Qualifying is currently underway for the 5th week here in the Friday night prime time. Information up on your screen currently about the weather: 21 degrees in the air, 29 degrees on the track. One of the cooler sessions of the races that we have seen so far this week, and will provide some very exciting racing, Paul.
It certainly will. It's one of the most exciting tracks that we will have here in this series. And speaking of this series, let's bring up your primetime schedule. So as we say, we're at Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Then we head on over to the Circuit de Catalunya for the club circuit next week, with Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course after that. Before we head on into Europe and Monza. So yeah, that is going to be really good. Of course, Phil is finishing off at Phillip Island. And well, as always, we will be taking you through a hot lap. Unfortunately, we don't have the video for this week, and that isn't a technical issue. That is more from our end. But what we can do is give you then a lap on board with Tim Graven, of course, a man who we've been seeing in this series. So he's coming out the final corner, going over the curb on the right, changing up into 6th gear for turn number 1. You've got the 100-meter board, and then brake just where that pit exit is. Turn 1, difficult corner. You'll push out wide, get the car over to the right-hand side a little bit for turn 2, but it's important to be on the left here for turn 3. Blind apex through 3. Now into the S's here. This is all combined into turn number 4. Through the left, then the right. The road then goes back to the left again before clipping right into turn number 5. This is the most tricky corner of the course, in my opinion. Very bumpy, off camber. It pushes you out wide as you head on then up towards turn number 6, downhill, then into the braking zone for turn 6. Don't slow it down too much. 4th gear, up over the curb for Tim, and now down into 3rd gear for this tight right-hander at turn 7. Important to get your line right out of that corner, because you carry the speed all the way down the straights here. Turn 8 is that left kink, would you believe it? And then turn 9 is going to be the right kink coming up here. We'll see the lap times up on the left-hand side of your screen as well. Through turn 9 then, heading downhill. It's a downhill braking zone here. About the 100-meter board then, on the brakes, up over the curb on the left. Then on the right, get the run out the corner, up and over the top of the hill, underneath the bridge, and then plunge downhill through the final corner. And that is going to be a hot lap around Road Atlanta.
Thank you very much, Paul. That is going to bring qualifying over and done with, and we're going to head ourselves down to the starting grid for today's 30-minute race. Thomas Gibson is going to be able to take pole by just over 0.3 of a second from Victor Gonzalez. That is going to be your front row here at Road Atlanta. Cedric Nobelsic in 3rd, Pete Harrod in fourth. The driver of Daniel Aruro going to be lining up fifth. And Tim Greven, who we have just had a lap on board with, is going to be lining up in sixth. The ever-fast Jack Sedgwick going to be lining up seventh, with Pierre Verne in 8th in that number 16 machine. 9th and 10th to round out the top 10th is going to be Moritz Lohner and Jamie Fluke. Daniel Muth going to be starting it down in 11th. Gerald Sevilla going to be starting in 12th. Norbert Leitner in 13th. Facundo Britos in 14th. David Toth in 15th. Nicholas Johnson 16th. Kimmo Suominen in 17th. And Emilio Largo going to be rounding out the 18-car field here at Road Atlanta. 30 minutes, Paul. A lot can happen around here. A very difficult and technical racetrack, as we have already been through, and really is one of the greats.
Oh, it's a fantastic circuit, of course. We had the iRacing Petit Le Mans last weekend. Well, this weekend it's the proper Petit Le Mans, the IMSA race there at Petit Le Mans, one of the great endurance races, and it is one of the final endurance races of the racing year as well, isn't it? So really a really classic circuit and a classic event that these drivers do take part in. You can see the grid forming on the field, a full pace lap, but luckily for us here today, unlike at Road America, it's quite a short lap here.
Yeah, Road America, you're looking at, I think it's about 3.5 minutes for the pace lap, so luckily it's a little bit shorter around here. Our 18-car field is now going to be setting off behind that iRacing pace car to begin that opening pace lap. Victor Gonzalez is a little bit slow off the line, but he is finally moving as we see the final drivers just up and going. Keep an eye on those drivers warming up those tyres. Of course, as we've said, the track temperature isn't that great, 29 degrees Celsius. It has been higher over the course of this week, Paul, so getting the heat into the tyres is going to be a little bit harder. We have also seen some incidents where people using that handbrake to try and warm up the tyres, and well, they can go very wrong in an instant.
You can't really do that in the pace lap in these races with the handbrake. You've just got to. Here's the thing: you've got to really work the tyres. So you want to spin them up, but not too much on the front tyres. Of course, it's a front-wheel drive car, is this. But then hit the brakes. So you want to be doing a lot of accelerating braking, because the braking is going to put a lot of heat into the brakes. That dissipates through the tyres. That helps warm up the tyres as well. It's mainly the rear tyres that will struggle in the first couple of laps, but you will have a little bit of understeer in the first lap if you don't work those front tyres well. But these drivers are really working hard. Some dropped a bit further back in your pace lap there at the back of the field.
Yeah, it looks as though the driver of Emilio Largo and the number 17, who's going to be lining up in 18th position, has dropped right back, try and get some heat in the tyres. He can work himself back up towards the front of the field as everyone exits out of turn 7. As you say, Paul, very important to get the exit off of that corner right. Just a little bit of wheel spin, you're going to be off in the grass, and all of a sudden you're going to be struggling. The wheel spin, the understeer is going to be something that these drivers really have to watch in the opening laps of this race. As the race goes on, the tyre temperature comes up and the tyre pressures come up. It's not going to be as big of a problem, but it's going to be something that these drivers are really going to have to watch. The braking zone as well, coming down to turn 10. Very easy to step out the rear of the car if you haven't got the brake bias just right or just how you like it, and as soon as you turn in you want to be trying to let off that brake just a little bit. If not, you're going to go for a spin and lose a lot of time, as the pace car will duck itself off to the right hand side as they head down the hill. The field will be under the control of Thomas Gibson, and 30 minutes of racing will be underway here at Road Atlanta for the 5th week of RaceSpot TV Friday night primetime. The pace car is down onto pit lane, and it's an early jump from Thomas Gibson as they head themselves through turn number 12 to take the green flag at Road Atlanta. And already it looks as though the driver of Cedric Nabil-Sik has managed to get himself up into second place. Victor Gonzalez very wide off the last corner bit in the mid-pack, 3 wide into turn 1 by the looks of things. Almost contact, but everyone just about through cleanly through that first corner, Paul.
Well, you say almost cleanly, but well, Daniel's gone off into the grass, number 10 car, so he didn't make it 3 wide through there. Didn't work out for him. We've got a slow down penalty for David Muth as well, so he's struggling and falling down the order here. So the early goings is pretty tough here, because those S's, you can't really go too wide through those.
looks as though that number 10 machine just had a little bit of contact with the number 14 of Pete Harrod into turn number 1. It was the slightest bit of contact he needed to put him into the wall, but we got our eyes firmly on the race lead between Thomas Gibson and Cedric Nabilsik as they head out of turn 7 for the first time, riding on board with that number 6 machine. As you can see him tucking into the draft, trying to get as much overspeed as possible into turn 10, almost as if he's pushing him down this back straight towards the 10, 10A and 10B chicane down to the inside. Cedric is going to look in that number 6 machine, but Thomas Gibson shutting the door. He's got to cover it on the braking zone and no move on the first lap, Paul. Quite sensible driving there from the number 6.
Yeah, speaking of bit of driving, Jack Sedgwick moving up the field, up into fourth place ahead of Pete Harrod now. So Jack and Pete actually compete in a touring car league, which is shown on the iRacing Esports Network. So maybe you can check that out on a Thursday night if you like these TCR cars. But yeah, these drivers they're used to competing against each other, battling further down as well in your field. That's David Tuth going down the inside of Chevalier.
And David Tuth in number 12 looking as though the move has been done, but still a little bit side by side further back. Kimo Suominen recovering after a poor qualifying in the number 3. The teammate to Thomas Gibson in that number 3 machine, already up to 11th position, Paul, up 6 positions on the first lap. That's not a bad effort.
It's a good start. Look at that! Wide goes Tuth out the turn number 5. We've identified that as, and I mentioned it as being the trickiest corner on the track. It really is. And Suominen now trying to make the most of this. He wants to get past David in front of him early on because he wants to take advantage and try and get to the cars in front. We have got an accident out on track as well, and that's the number 11 car has had an incident at turn 7, I believe.
And that is indeed, he's dropped right down. Whether there was contact involved, I am not quite sure. There was potentially, he might have just lost it on the grass, in fact, Paul. A very tricky braking zone if you get it out wide, and it was indeed a little bit out on the grass. You can see it on your screens now, ladies and gentlemen. And around that number 11 machine goes, and to the back of the field, he will have to cycle. He's back out and running, and as Pierre Verne as well has hit trouble in the number 16 machine, he's down onto pit lane.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it on replay here. Have a look at what happened to Verne. He's had the look then down in towards the chicane on the number 4. That's Moritz Lerner, and he got tagged from behind, and I believe that was Jamie Fluke who got into the back of him. So Verne getting rear-ended there, and that's him down onto pit road. That's a rare sight to see an Audi on pit road, because these things are like tanks.
They are. They can take a lot of beatings, can these RS3 LMS TCR machines, but Pierre Verne, it is out for him in this race. Still up at the front of your field, the driver of Thomas Gibson leading from Cedric Nabilsik. They are 1 and 2. Victor Gonzalez in third. He had the fastest lap of the race last time around. He's dropped back a little bit from these leading 2, Paul, but clearly got the pace, clearly got a little bit more tyre temperature in his car just now.
Yeah, he certainly does, and that's a key thing with this car. It's being able to build up the tyre temperature and pressures really quickly, but also not using up those tyres as well. So it's a bit of a compromise in these 30-minute races because you want that tyre life, but you also don't want to be taking it too much out don't want to be hampered early on going, as Moritz Lerner loses a place to Jamie Fluke, who's on a bit of a mission, it looks like.
And Jamie Fluke clearly trying to make his way through the field as they head themselves down through turn number 12, riding on board with Moritz Lerner now. And you can see just how much curve they're taking through that final corner. Don't want to take too much, you'll unsettle the car and get yourself out wide. You don't want to hit that concrete wall on the left-hand side because that will bite. Coming through turn number 1, the car will get slightly sideways on the brakes, so you can see just how wide Jamie Fluke is taking that. But everyone all of a sudden back down to the inside for turn number 3.
We've lost Moritz Lerner.
Yes, we have, as they head themselves on through the S's for the 4th time. Jamie Fluke all of a sudden seems to have got a little bit of breathing room as the driver of Moritz Lerner hits trouble. Yeah, he's got technical problems here, so he's I'm afraid that's going to be the last we see of Moritz in this race, which is a real shame because I was looking forward to that battle between Jamie. That's good for Jamie though, because I'm a positives man. I look at the positives. He can now look forward and look towards Pete Harrod again, as somebody who he has raced many times in touring car leagues throughout iRacing. So there's a few of these drivers on the grid who are not shy of each other, and right now looking at the lead, it's still first versus second.
And it's still pretty close between those. And Victor Gonzalez, he's still hanging around loitering behind them.
He is, and the gap is only about a second between himself and Cedric Nabilsik, as Nabilsik looking at Thomas Gibson, not being able to get a move done, but he is trying all of a sudden, looking down to the inside into turn number one. Can he get a move on the brakes? They're going to go side by side through turn number one. Gibson with the outside line. That's going to gift in the better line up the run towards turn three. However, Cedric still going to keep the car on the inside there. Is he going to be able to get to the apex? He might have an off track from that one, but for Thomas Gibson, he's held on for another day, but that was very close to going too wide through turn three, something which you really don't want to do.
No, you can do it, but it's going to hamper both of you all the way through the S's there if you do go too wide there. But all of that battling has just allowed Victor Gonzalez behind to catch up 0.3 of a second. That's just through the first sector of the lap there. So these two, they don't want to fight too much, and I think that's part of the reason why on that opening lap, Jack, you saw Cedric just bump drafting Thomas Gibson down the straight, just trying to push him forward, trying to get themselves away from the pack behind.
And that is what you want to do as we head towards the 10-minute gone stage in this event. Nabilsik once again heading down the hill, a little bit more overspeed on Thomas Gibson, but Gibson holding that inside line as we ride on board with Nabilsik. He's going to look to the inside, but Gibson not going to give him an inch of room as they head through the 10A, 10B chicane and up the hill and under the bridge for the 5th time. And once again, that number 6 machine still not being able to find a way past, but all of a sudden Victor Gonzalez and Jack Sedgwick really clinging onto the back of this group now. So all of a sudden we've gone from a 2-way fight for the lead to a 4-way fight for the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. He's 4-car train, time to step aboard the Thomas Gibson train. And the thing is, this is the thing with this track here, you can use the draft to such strong effect through, not so much through the first sector of the lap, but if you keep close enough, when you head out towards the end of the lap, that's where you get the benefits of that draft, get that slipstream to get yourself closer and closer to the car in front of you. Jack Sedgwick, he's on a bit of a mission at the moment here. We'll have a look at his lap gaps there, and look at that, the last 3 laps gained 0.8 of a second over Victor Gonzalez.
And last time round he had the fastest lap of the race so far, and in fact beat the fastest lap of Victor Gonzalez by 0.2. He's gone about half a second quicker than the 2 leaders, so Jack Sedgwick really is on a charge after starting 7th position in this race. All of a sudden he's up to 4th and he can smell that podium.
Yeah, I don't think he's looking just at a podium. I think he's looking forward. He wants a win here. He started this race down in 7th. Not the best qualifying from Jack, and I think he'll be the first one to admit that as well. But here, right now, he is putting the pressure on and keeping a close eye on those leaders. Speaking of pressure, by the way, Tim Graven, look at how close this battle is. Fluke, Graven, Simon and Toff all together there.
As they head themselves through turn at number 12 and across the line, looks as though Kimmo Suominen running a little bit wide, kicking up a little bit of dirt, but he's going to be fine down into turn number 1. Nose to tail between Greven and Suominen through turn number 1. Greven seeming to have a little bit of a better run, but look out from behind. David Toth trying to make a move on the number 3 machine of Kimmo Suominen, but so far you want to go single file through this section of the circuit. Try and make the moves in the second half of the lap, because here is where you can gain the time, and then the second half of the lap is really where you can advantage from it.
I mean, the thing is, you can actually get a pass done in through turns 1, 2 and 3, but you want to get it finished by turn 3. That's the sort of like the end point of the first half of the lap. You can maybe make a move into 6. 7, you don't really want to make the move into it. It's coming out of the corner, which is crucial. You want to carry that speed all the way down the straight. So it's thinking tactically, thinking about how you're going to race this one and how you're going to work the moves and work the wheel. And that's certainly what these drivers are doing out here today.
As Jack Sedgwick down the inside of Victor Gonzalez for 3rd position as they head themselves through the chicane. Gonzalez with the inside line on the exit of the chicane should have a better run as they head under the bridge, and contact between the two. They're both going to go wide as they head down towards turn number 12, and they're both going to carry on. No damage seemingly to either car, but that was very close to disaster for both of them.
Yeah, we'll have a look then from the aerial coverage, and just that little bit of contact there. Jack was trying to turn in whilst Gonzalez was still there on the inside, so not an ideal attempt at a move there, but still third and fourth, but they've dropped back here. Simonen, oh my goodness, Griven's got Simonen there, and he's got a train of cars. This could be bad for Graven if he's not careful. He could have been freight trained right there, but luckily for him, he's able to slot in ahead of David Toff.
And as they head through turn at number 5, Graven David Toff. Looks as though Franco de Britos, Norbert Leitner and Nicholas Johnston also getting involved in that battle from the 7th position down to 12th. And as they head into turn number 6, no positions changing just yet. Everyone going to be looking to get the moves done at the end of the straight. Watch out for David Toff, who's right on the rear of Tim Greven as they head through turn number 7. It's all going to be about who gets the best run off of that corner and who also can make the best advantage from the draft. The driver who's got to be careful now is Kimmo Suominen. He might have a gap, but I promise you that will be gone by the end of this straight. Just shows how much the draft is important in one of these cars. Not much power. That draft can really make the difference.
Oh, we've got battling in front as well as Sedgwick now has finally made his way through. We'll get this up on replay here. It's down the straight, as you mentioned, using that draft, and then onto the brakes, late onto the brakes into that chicane. Nicely done there, Jack, actually. That was a really good move, was that. Able to get to his apex and hold the position.
And as they head themselves up through turn 1, back to live pictures we go. Live timing and scoring is available, ladies and gentlemen. Head yourselves over to RaceSpot TV/timing, where you can track your favourite drivers all the way through the race. Looking back from Jack Sedgwick towards Victor Gonzalez, and all of a sudden you can see just how much of a gap he's pulled out. 5th position is also there. That's Pete Harrod by the looks of things in the 14. He's down 1 position on where he started. However, a really strong race so far from Pete.
Yeah, I mean, he's in 5th. And he's holding his own here. Don't forget, in iRacing, you're put into these races by your iRating. And the fact that he's car number 14 and he's in 5th place, this will do him a world of good. As it will Victor Gonzalez as well. He's car number 9 in this one and he's in 4th. So some really strong performances in these cars. You've got a 3-car train for 3rd place, and the front 2 are still pretty close together as well.
Just 0.3 of a second, 0.2 of a second by the looks of things, splitting the 2 leaders. However, Cedric Nabilsek still tailing the driver of Thomas Gibson. So far, no moves being made up at the front of your field as we watch the 3rd, 4th and 5th battle head themselves through that chicane and down the hill for the 9th time. And again, same thing is happening here, not much happening. And the train from 8th down to 12th is still pretty stalemate, actually, Paul, as Kimmo Suominen has managed to break away and catch back up to the rear of Jamie Fluke.
He has, but I'll tell you what, that lead battle, just a few, almost a 10th each lap, the last 2 laps. Nabilsek is really putting the pressure on now. He wants that position from Thomas Gibson, and the core sim racing driver Gibson, he is giving it absolutely everything here, especially out of turn 5 there. He's under major pressure.
And that pressure is at some point going to get to him. Thomas Gibson, a driver who we know can keep a very level-headed over the course of a race. Just 1 minute away from that halfway stage in this half-an-hour race here at Road Atlanta. They head themselves out of turn number 7, down to the back straight. Cedric Nabilsek still, you can see he's trying to get the draft at every single opportunity. These 2 have broken away from the guys behind. 3.5 seconds now on Jack Sedgwick in 3rd. As we've got side by side for the race lead, down to the inside is going to be Thomas Gibson. Cedric Nabilsek trying to go around the outside, a little bit sideways from the number 1 machine, but he's going to hold on to the race lead. A very good attempt there by Cedric Nabilsek, but just not quite enough.
Yeah, not quite enough indeed. We've still got battling further on as well as the drivers coming through. We've got that battle further down. Oh, there's almost, there's the car going slow there on the inside trying to get out the way. I think that was Britos who was involved there. We'll have to take a replay of this because some sort of shenanigans. Oh yeah, it was a bit of a chain reaction there, a concertina.
Oh yeah, that's one way of putting it. It's like Dodgems almost heading into turn 10, but everyone's seeming, apart from Britos, to get through reasonably unscathed. Another replay up on your screen, riding on board with that number 7 machine of Norbert Leitner. down into the chicane they go. Leitner very late on the brakes, just got a little bit squiggly, but there was contact happened ahead. But as you say, Paul, very much a Constantina effect. Everyone very lucky to get away from that, how they did.
Yeah, absolutely. They've kept going. That's the main thing. They've all kept on track, so that's really good. But look at this, Graven putting the pressure on Johnston in front. So Nicholas Johnston under serious pressure from Graven here in this battle for 9th and 10th place. I'm keeping an eye on the timing screen. In fact, we're going to go to the front because it's on here and Nebelsic has got the inside.
He has done into turn 10. They will go, and it looks as though a little bit later on the brakes for Thomas Gibson in the number 1 machine, and once again holding on to that lead. Whatever Cedric Nebelsic is trying, it just isn't working. He needs another strategy on Thomas Gibson. Gibson has got him covered as we look back from the number 6 machine and look forward to Thomas Gibson. It just isn't quite enough, Paul. Thomas Gibson still managing to hold on to that race lead, but Cedric Nebelsic really giving him a run for his money.
I'm amazed at how late Thomas Gibson could hit the brakes then. That was incredible. He did a really good job there, but you can see how Nebelsic is really putting that pressure on. He's in and around those times of Gibson. They are running slower than the guys behind, though, it must be said, because Jack Sedgwick, half a second he caught up on that last lap. So these two at the front, they're not clear yet, not yet by a long shot.
And with 13 minutes remaining in the race, anything can happen, and that gap can definitely be closed by Jack Sedgwick. Top 8 up on your screen as it stands. Thomas Gibson and Cedric Nebelsic, your top 2 still running together. Then we've got a pack of 3 with Jack Sedgwick, Victor Gonzalez and Pete Harrod from 3rd down to 5th. Jamie Fluke and Kimo Suominen running in 6th and 7th, with Kimo Suominen being your biggest mover and shaker of the race so far, up 10 positions on where he started, with David Toth rounding out the top 8, currently running on his own. Once again, side by side into turn 10 for the race lead. To the outside, Cedric Nebelsic will go. He's going to try the same thing. Going to get the undercut off the corner. He's going to try it. If he can get a better run, he's got the inside line down the hill, and I think he might have got it. This is going to be the best line he can get through turn number 12. Is this going to be the race lead for Cedric Nebelsic? It is. And Thomas Gibson, after 17 minutes of domination, all of a sudden losing out on that race lead.
Yep, finally Nebelsic gets the job done. Now the question is, what can Gibson do to reply? Or has he used up his tyres too much, being out at front? That's going to be the really interesting question. Or is the slipstream really going to come in and help Gibson here now for the rest of this race? So interesting how this all plays out with just under 12 minutes remaining. Oh, and there's this small matter of Jack Sedgwick, Vince Gonzalez and Pete Harrod catching up as well.
And last time around, it looks as though Jack Sedgwick caught about half a second again on Thomas Gibson, but Thomas Gibson having that slower lap because he had to yield through turn number 12. If you want to get a move done, get it done on the inside of turn number 12, because you leave the car on the outside, no option but to lift. If not, they're saying hello to the world of understeer and hello to that concrete wall on the left-hand side of the track.
Certainly are, and it's a great circuit, is this. You've got to compromise your setup here a little bit, and you've got to really get it working. And here comes Gibson for the instant reply.
And down to the inside, Gibson will go, and he's going to try and get the move done, and he's got it done before the second apex of the chicane. Nebelsic can't answer off of the corner because of just how well Gibson was able to get off, so the tyre's clearly still there, but they're going to go nose to tail through turn number 12. Got to watch that dirty air, okay? These touring cars might rely on the mechanical grip, but downforce still going to be a weave from Thomas Gibson to the inside. Cedric Nebelsic will go into turn number 1. This is definitely over. Slightly better drive off the corner for the number 6. He's going to get the lead up the hill as they head towards turn number 3.
Yeah, that was Nebelsic thinking, right, come on, I need to do something a little bit different here. And out the final corner to the right-hand side, that's what he needed to do, and it worked for him, but he ended up on the grass a little bit. Gibson wasn't giving him too much space, and quite rightly as well. He is the leader, but it's now Nebelsic in the lead of this one, and the guys behind, just 1.6 seconds behind Gibson here. So these two at the front, if they keep on battling, they're just enticing those cars behind into this battle.
And as that battle is going, the gap between first and third is now less than 2 seconds. It's been closing over the course of the last few laps. And as we head ourselves down to the chicane, once again is going to be nose to tail for the race lead. Thomas Gibson, who's going to try and pull the same move again. Down to the inside, he will go. We know he's better on the brakes than Cedric Nabilsik, and Nabilsik understands that. He's going to let him have the corner, but now he's got to get a drive off the corner, and he's got a good run off the corner. But inside is going to be Thomas Gibson as they head down towards turn number 12. That leaves the number 6. No option but to back out there, Paul.
He had to, but look at him. He's all over the rear bumper. He's wanting to get that lead back again here. Into the final 10 minutes of the race. In fact, we've got 9 minutes remaining in this one, and these drivers are giving us one heck of a show again. Great racing from this series as always, but through turn 3 they go, and look at Cedric now. He's within a second of third place. He's going to start feeling the effects of the draft here, Jack, and that means down that back straightaway he's going to be starting closing up on the back of these two leaders, and Nabilsik has got to think two things. One, I need to get past Thomas and stay ahead of him for as long as possible. And two, I need to do it before Jack Sedgwick gets to us.
And we know that Jack Sedgwick is fast. He's the fastest driver out on the circuit at the moment. We're seeing the tyres start to drop off. Already Jack Sedgwick, last time around, he set the fastest lap of anyone on that lap of 1 minute 27.9, but that's over half a second off of his last, or his fastest lap of the race, which is of course the overall fastest lap of the race. You can see up on your screen the lap gaps, a second gain last time around on Cedric Nabilsik by Jack Sedgwick, and down into turn 10 once again. These two are going to go side by side. No change is going to be happening this time, Paul, but all of a sudden Jack Sedgwick is verging on half a second from the back of Cedric Nabilsik.
He certainly is, as we get a little bit too close to my liking on that camera, so we'll switch on over. But Nabilsik putting the pressure on, he's going to the inside. He's not going to get through the inside of turn number 1 here. Time is running out here because we're heading towards the final, 5 laps of the race here. And Nabilsik is starting to just feel a little bit antsy here, and he's starting to look a bit more aggressive with the body language of that car.
He wants to get past. You can tell the way that he's driving that Audi RS3 LMS TCR that he wants to make a move for the race lead, but there's no opportunity being given by Thomas Gibson to do so as they head through turn number 5. The different lines through that corner, you can see some people running a little bit wider, risking the bump. You don't want to hit it too hard, it will spit the car around, and there's not much time or space to save that car here at Road Atlanta. The walls are very close and very exciting, very inviting as they head off of turn number 7, nose to tail for the race lead. But look behind, Jack Sedgwick, all of a sudden now he's going to be right on the tailpipe of Cedric Nabilsik at the end of this straight, Paul, just because of how strong that draft is.
Well, you say that, but Nabilsik of course has got the slipstream, but here we go. Nabilsik is going for the lead here, down the outside of the braking zone of the chicane. Again, Gibson, how good is he on the brakes there? Brilliant. But all this is checked up, and here comes Cedric now into this battle. It's a 3-way battle for the lead.
It's a 4-way battle for the lead because look at Victor. He's getting joined in behind as well in 4th position. So all of a sudden, Victor Gonzalez, who had a bit of a poor start to the inside, is Cedric Nabilsik going to go into turn number 1, leaving Thomas Gibson no option to go to the outside. He's already done this move once. He's going to try again. A little bit of argy-bargy between the two. Thomas Gibson having to go wide. He's going to cycle to the back of this pack. All of a sudden, Jack Sedgwick is up into 2nd, really sniffing that race win now.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that one again on the replay, just very briefly here. So Nabilsik down the inside there, hits the brakes. Gibson down there. Oh, well, Nabilsik missed his apex. That's what happened there in turn number 1. So that's why the contact was made. And Gibson, really big loss out of that one. But now Nabilsik has to be careful because here comes Jack Sedgwick, as you mentioned, the fastest man on track for pretty much every lap of this race. And he is giving us a really good show towards the final 5.5 minutes.
5.5 minutes remain here at Road Atlanta. Of course, for those 5.5 minutes, if you wish to do so, head yourselves over to RaceSpot TV /timing to track where these drivers are. You can see the lap times, the top 8 up on your screen. You can see that top 4 covered by just 1.5 seconds. And down into the chicane to the outside will go Jack Sedgwick. Nabilsik with the block, but he's going to leave racing room. And now Sedgwick has got to get a good run off the corner. If he can get the inside into turn number 12, but it's not going to quite be there for the number 5 machine as they head themselves down through turn number 12 for the 17th time, Paul.
Yeah, the time is running out now. And Nabilsik, with all the pressure that he was putting on Thomas and all the late moves that he was making, maybe has worked his front tyres a little bit more than Jack here, who was just able to have clean air for most of this race and to push on. So this is great stuff. We've come to love this each and every week in Friday Prime Time, and once again these drivers are giving us one heck of a show. And well, 4 drivers, 1 winner of this particular race. Who's it going to be? Well, I don't know.
I don't know either, but in 4.5 minutes we will find out. There will be 3 more laps after this one, meaning that this will be a 21-lap race here at Road Atlanta. And if there's one thing that touring cars can do, they can put on a good show and always provide us with exciting racing to the very last moment. We see that in every single touring car series all around the world. Riding on board with Jack Sedgwick as they head themselves down the back straight for the 18th time, and it looks as though this time around, Paul, too much of a gap, 0.4 of a second between the two. Nabilsik, I think, is going to be safe this time around.
For this lap, yes, but maybe that's Jack just giving his tyres a little bit of a break. We'll have to look back, though, because there's a battle for 5th place, and that's Jamie Fluke now making his way past Pete Harrod. And look behind, Harrod is under pressure from Soimonen. So all of a sudden, Pete Harrod, in the space of about 4 corners, has lost 2 positions. They're leaning on each other coming out that final turn.
That's really not somewhere where you want to be leaning on another car, but Harrod currently holding off from the driver of Kimmo Suominen. Suominen still in 7th position. He's been sat there for the majority of the last 10 minutes, but I know that he'll want to get himself a little bit higher, recover from that poor qualifying where he started down in 17th position, but he's got to get himself past Pete Harrod. And as Jamie Fluke starts to pull away, that 5th position maybe going to be a little bit too far out of the Finns' reach.
Yeah, I think it's just that little bit too much. Emilio Largo has gone back to pit road, so issues for Emilio there. So not a good way to end the race. We'll point out, by the way, thank you to Moritz Lerner, who let us know it was a connection problem on the internet for him. Meanwhile, Johnston and Littner have both been off, and that's a turn number 5. That's on the entrance. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the replay already, and there's door banging going on.
It's very close as they come through the S, as you can see, rejoining the track, and across the track will come the number 13 and across into the path of Norbert Leitner in the number 7. And, well, I have to say, Nicholas Johnston, that was a little bit unsafe.
Oh, well, Thomas Gibson, forget about that. Gibson's made a great move into 3rd place. He's getting in on this battle with 2 minutes. We're at the 2-minute warning. And all of a sudden, Sedgwick was trying to make moves on the Nabilsik as well. So all of a sudden, business is picking up here at the front.
And Jack Sedgwick looking to the outside into turn number 1, but Nabilsik the inside. We know it works for him. He's made moves on Thomas Gibson all the way through this race using that line, but Sedgwick now risking it into turn 3. Side by side, Nabilsik going to be compromised as they head themselves into the S's for the 20th time. And now Thomas Gibson all of a sudden back in this one. If he can get through on Jack Sedgwick this lap, there is still a chance that Thomas Gibson can win this race.
It's anybody's race, is this at the front. It's absolutely fantastic. And well, these drivers, they're on the penultimate lap here, and time is running out. There's only 2 more opportunities really to make any moves here, but this could all end in tears here, Jack. This really could.
Do you know what? My money's on Victor Gonzalez winning this race, because I really do feel like this is going to end in tears for the top 3 as they head themselves out of turn number 7 for the penultimate time and head themselves down towards turn number 10. This is going to be an important braking zone for each and every car in this leading pack, because whoever is going to be leading onto this last lap is going to be the ones who's going to have to defend. To the outside will go Jack Sedgwick. The inside for Nabilsik. We know the inside is slightly better into the first part of this corner, but Sedgwick around the outside is going to get the move done into the race lead, but Nabilsik down the inside as they come under the bridge through turn 12 for the penultimate time. All of a sudden cycles himself back to the race lead, and now the driver of Jack Sedgwick has got it all to do again. But watch out for behind. Thomas Gibson, Victor Gonzalez, they'll want a piece of this side by side into turn number 1. Sedgwick looking to the outside, but Thomas Gibson to the inside, and all of a sudden Gibson could get himself back up into 2nd position, because he's going to have the inside line as they head into turn number 3. But no, single file through the S's for the final time. Sensible decision by these top 4 drivers. Cedric Nabilsik still leading the way, and he's got a little bit of a gap now, 0.3 back to the driver of Jack Sedgwick. Sedgwick's got 0.3 between himself and Thomas Gibson. Nabil Singh needs all the gap he can get. A little bit of slidey from Jack Sedgwick as he heads himself through turn number 5. This is going to allow Thomas Gibson to close the gap. And he's going to look to the outside as they head into turn number 6 for the final time. But Sedgwick blocking the inside. He's not going to allow Gibson to get to the apex. So Gibson having to slot in behind. Into the inside for turn number 7. Almost contact between the two. There is contact between the two on the exit of the corner, but a better run off the corner for Jack Sedgwick. Here comes Victor Gonzalez in the number 9, looking to the inside of Thomas Gibson. And Cedric Nabil-Singh now is even more comfortable in the leads. But Victor Gonzalez could still pick up a podium from this one, potentially even second position if he can get a move done on Jack Sedgwick. Down to the inside is going to be Thomas Gibson to defend his third position. But Cedric Nabil-Singh, as he heads into the final chicane, he's going to be safe. Gibson to the inside. Gibson up into third, so he's going to regain a podium after his incident down at turn 1. But coming into turn number 12 for the final time, Cedric Nabil-Singh, an awesome drive by the number 6. He's going to win here at Road Atlanta from Jack Sedgwick, making himself up from 7th position, and Thomas Gibson recovering to finish on the podium. What a race that was, Paul. What a race.
That was a race. And we're going to have to rewind here because something happened to Pete Harrod and to Kimmo Soimonen into the chicane here. So Harrod makes a move on the inside. There's bang! Door bang! Thank you very much. And Pete Harrod is going to end up losing that 7th place to David Toff. So he won't be happy about that, will Pete, on the final corner. And the man known as Shy Pete to some, he ends up finishing down in 8th place. He won't be happy with that.
No, and Pete Harrod, someone who I know is a very fast driver, having a tough day here today, but still a good result for the Brit. As we come to an end of week number 5 of Friday Night Prime Time, Cedric Nabil-Singh is going to be your winner here at Road Atlanta by half a second over Jack Sedgwick. Thomas Gibson going to be rounding out the podium. Victor Gonzalez is going to be finishing in 4th. Jamie Fluke ending up in 5th. And Kimmo Soimonen up 11 positions to be finishing 6th. 7th, Pete Harrod 8th. And Britos 9th. Tim Greven ending up down at the bottom end of the top 10. Daniel Muth going to be finishing in 11th. Gerald Chevalier in 12th. Daniel Orado in 13th. Nicholas Johnson 14th. Norbert Leitner in 15th. And your non-finishers Emilio Largo, Moritz Lohner and Pierre Verne. We're going to step aside for a couple of moments here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network, but we will be back with all the post-race coverage here from Road Atlanta. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We have just seen a very close and intense race from all of the drivers up and down the field. Cedric Nabil-Singh in the end, after putting the pressure onto Thomas Gibson all race long, going to be coming away with the race win here today, Paul. And it was very close. We didn't know who it was going to be until the last half a lap when Jack Sedgwick, Thomas Gibson and Victor Gonzalez really started to get elbows out between each other. Yeah,
that was... I mean, I basically sat back and let you talk through that final lap. That was absolutely sensational. Great racing from all of those drivers, respectful as well. So it's what we've come to expect. And I'm going to do a blatant cheap plug. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network on YouTube if you want to keep up to date with racing like that. Or give us a follow on Twitch as well, because every Friday night, this series just keeps on giving us action out on track, and that certainly was absolutely thrilling. And we'll try now to get the final couple of laps up on screen. In fact, it's going to be 3 laps, the final 3 laps that we're going to see up on screen.
So this is, you are correct in saying the final 3 laps, correct?
Yes.
So what we are currently seeing is Cedric Nabilsic from, that would be Jack Sedgwick, Victor Gonzalez and Thomas Gibson, the top 4 that you're currently seeing there. You can see him running line astern through the S's, and I mean, with 3 laps to go, it was still anyone's game, and as I was saying, Thomas Gibson still had the chance to come and win this race, and I think, if anything, actually, the thing that stopped him was Jack Sedgwick, and Sedgwick having that little bit of a wiggle through that final turn on the final, or turn 5 on the final lap pull, probably stopped the charge of Thomas Gibson back through the field.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right with that, and you know, the way that these drivers were racing, I mean, they were driving like they stole the car, for one thing, some of them, but it was just unbelievable pace from every one of them. I mean, the consistency of their lap times, I'm just looking at Cedric's lap times when he was behind Thomas compared to when he started battling. He was in the low mid 27s for most of the time, was Cedric. And then you see that move from Thomas Gibson there down the inside. So yeah, these drivers, that they can hold really quick racing pace here, and my goodness, they put on a great show. So this is a penultimate lap here. So this is where Cedric started looking for moves and started trying to make his way through. And we'll look from the aerial shot here in towards turn number 3. You can see how Cedric was having to go defensive there onto the brakes, and then this brought Thomas Gibson into that battle there, Jack.
And all of a sudden you can see Thomas Gibson right up on the tail of Jack Sedgwick, and this is where, at this point, I was saying this is the chance for Thomas Gibson. If he can get past Jack Sedgwick on this lap, all of a sudden he can try and put the pressure onto Cedric Nabilsic. Obviously, we don't know what the tyres are like for everyone. We knew that Thomas Gibson was better on the brakes, and that was really where he was going to gain the time. And as we can see, coming down into turn 6 and 7, this was really the important part for these guys on this lap, because a good drive off the corner for any of them would have meant they'd have been challenging for the positions ahead.
Yeah, it certainly would. And again, it's all about that run out the corner, but with Thomas Gibson there, he's got the double draft. He's in the prime position there in 3rd place, but Jack Sedgwick was closing, looked to the outside. Of course, this is a penultimate lap here. We've not made it onto the final lap yet, and this is where he made that brave move around the outside of the left-hander. I thought he was going to get the job done there, but look at the cutback that Cedric gets there through the right-hander. It was absolutely brilliant, epic racing between these two, swapping positions. Cedric, of course, we've seen pretty much every week, but now we're on to the final lap of the race, and this is where we'll then start paying attention to what Thomas Gibson was doing, because he started throwing some moves down the inside of turn 1. He was looking, Cedric was looking back at Gibson, he was looking forward, but it's through this next part here, as you mentioned, and we'll have a look from on board Thomas Gibson's point of view. This will be the best way of seeing it. You can see how Cedric using the grass there, and then he gets loose right there. The car takes an unfortunate bounce over the curb. He didn't take the curb quite how he wanted, and that puts him on the back foot. That's what gives Cedric Nabilsic the gap at front to be able to just get a bit of a comfortable lead. And then Gibson tries to get the cutback, looks to the inside of 7, but this doesn't really work because you're not able to get on the power as early as the car on the outside to get the run out of turn number 7. So that's where Thomas Gibson lost his chance of a 2nd place by trying too early to make the move on Jack Sedgwick.
And I think for Thomas Gibson, his best chance at 2nd place would have been on the inside down into turn 10. You can see he was looking, but all of a sudden he was being challenged from behind by Victor Gonzalez, as you can see from that aerial shot. But Thomas Gibson, again, much better on the brakes. He was able to get the car turned in. That number 1 machine was so pointy, you could see it in the way that it was being driven. And Victor Gonzalez, he didn't have any chance. He needed to be on the inside there, Paul, to even have a chance of making a move into 3rd position there.
Yeah. He really did, but hats off to all the drivers there today. That was awesome racing. Unfortunately, none of them have come to speak to us here, but Absolutely epic stuff. And let's not count out as well the drive from Jack Sedgwick. Started 7th place, ended up in 2nd. Jamie Fluke and Kimmo Soimonen, those two, and David Toth to be fair as well, 10th, 17th and 15th they started respectively, and they ended up 5th, 6th and 7th.
And it just shows in a half an hour race that you might have a bad qualifying, but it doesn't mean that you can't still finish in the mid-pack, or as they did, up at the front end of the field and really having a good charge through the pack. And that is something which we do see in events like this. And for Jamie Fluke, Kimmo Soimonen and David Toth, okay, it might not have been a win, it might not have been a podium, but it was a good drive from them, and they are going to be mighty impressed after what they would have say was struggling in qualifying.
I think if those guys hadn't have been fighting quite so hard early on, I think they really would have had the opportunity of challenging for possibly getting towards it with the leaders all battling, tagging onto the back of that and giving us an absolute spectacle there.
And well, that is just about all we are going to have time for here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Thank you very much for tuning in to week 5 of Friday Night Primetime. Do not forget, tomorrow evening we have the Thrustmaster iRacing Rallycross World Championship. That is going to be Johnny Simon and Randy Chenworth bringing you all of the action for that. It is going to be one you do not want to miss. And of course, next week we're going to Barcelona, a new circuit for iRacing this season. It is not going to be one you want to miss with these TCR cars. If you thought Road Atlanta was exciting, Barcelona is just going to be just as good. But from us, from myself, Jack Stiles and Paul Smith, we thank you very much for tuning in to the iRacing Esports Network, and we will see you same time, same place next week.